Dunkirk is Christopher Nolan's latest film, a movie about soldiers that are trapped on the island of Dunkirk and the civilians' attempts to desperately rescue them. Now, I've been excited for this movie for a long time because I'm a really big fan of Christopher Nolan's, and I gotta say, coming back from the theater, I was pretty speechless. Honestly, I didn't know what to think of the movie. It had left a really good impression on me, and I didn't want to make a video right away so that it would sound like I'm just jerking the movie off like it's a perfect movie. So I thought about it for a little while and I sat on it, I slept on it, and finally I came to a pretty good conclusion of this movie is good, but it has issues that I think the general audience might have a problem with. Now, what I mean by that is I'm not trying to call you stupid or anything, by the way. What I mean by that is there is a very distinct lack of character development in this movie. And while I thought it was great because in real war, I don't really think that you get to know your fellow soldiers all that well when you're in the heat of the battle, which this movie is in its entirety. There's no slow scenes in this movie, and the whole thing you're on the whole time that you're on a knife's edge. So there's not a lot of time to develop character. I just don't think that Dunkirk is the movie that should be developing its characters. It should be the characters going through the story and fighting against the odds until the very, very end, which is what I think this movie does really, really well. But I can absolutely see that as a valid argument against this movie. Absolutely, I can. The second thing is that the movie is told from three different perspectives. One event happens and you see three different perspectives from it. And I can see how that can get a little bit confusing for people if they don't know that going in, because there's some scenes that take place at night and then it cuts and it's daytime, and it can get very confusing for people. But just so you know, it's being told from three different perspectives at three different times. Overall, though, I thought the movie was fantastic. Christopher Nolan really nailed it out of the park with this one, and the entire cast was great. Harry Styles actually surprised the hell out of me. I didn't think he'd be bad. I just didn't think he'd be as good as he was. He played his character very well, and so did everyone else. Tom Hardy is Tom Hardy. He kicks ass in everything he's in, so kudos to them. I thought they all did a very, very good job. The soundtrack by Hans Zimmer was fantastic as always. He nailed the knife's edge tension that this movie was going for. The ticking of the clock throughout the entire movie really makes it feel like this 2.5 hour movie is like 10 days of just like tense action. The camera work was great. Cinematography was great. I thought the action scenes, while there were very few of them and they were mostly just dogfighting, I thought they were great. And it had a very minimalistic approach towards war. And what I mean by that is you don't ever see a German soldier, I don't think. You don't ever see a drop of blood or even gore, but there's bombs drop in, and it's less of a war movie than it is a survival movie, is what I like to say. Is that there's not a lot of gunfire and firefighting between the two armies. It's just about the French and British army trying to get the hell off of Dunkirk. And I think that that's great, and it works to that movie's advantage because there's very few war movies about that, about the characters just trying to survive the environment they're in, rather than a full-on like war fighting back and all this movie. And I gotta say that I was a little worried about Christopher Nolan making a war movie because, like I said, he doesn't really use blood and gore and swearing and all that, which is all really prevalent in war. So I was a little concerned going in, but I think it's a very, very good mix of implied grotesqueness and just simply just environmental horror, I guess, is the right word. Some of the scenes are absolutely horrifying, and you'll be covering your face being like, oh God, no, 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 because of just how powerfully it's directed. And I got to give props to Christopher Nolan on that. It's not a perfect movie. I don't think it is. There's, like I said before, I love Christopher Nolan as a director, but I think that one of his weakest points is as a writer. I don't think he's a very good writer. And there's not a whole lot of dialogue in this movie, but some of the dialogue that is in the movie comes across as forced, a little weird, you know, and kind of awkward, I guess, some of the dialogue. But, you know, I think that Christopher Nolan really covered up his biggest weakness in here by not having a lot of dialogue, making a much more powerful movie, because that's what Christopher Nolan does. He's a super powerful director. Um, and I don't really know what else to say about this movie. It was excellent, probably my favorite movie of the year so far, and I would be shocked if it wasn't on my top 10 for the end of the year. So definitely go see Dunkirk. It's amazing. See it in theaters, because Christopher Nolan movies demand that you get your butt in those theater seats. It's a whole different experience. I promise it's worth the $12 or $15. Go see it in theaters. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you see here and you want to see more, go ahead and click like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.